halos with wings, hordes of dead things, and hauntings with strange glowing lights. Welcome to the Meli LynnLee Variety Show, where today we're talking angels, demons, and lost souls. Subscribe below, and let's get started. If there's one thing I have a lot of experience with in this world, it's spirits. And there's a whole variety of them out there that cross over into our physical dimension whenever they feel like. But the ones that we have the most encounters with are the ones we usually have the most stories about. Everyone knows someone with a paranormal experience, and if you don't, well, someone in your life is probably just scared to tell you. Maybe from fear of judgment or that you'll think they're crazy. But the spirit world is perfectly parallel to ours. We just don't usually recognize that it's there. The spirits that surround us come in and check us out pretty often, and most people never even notice that they're around. I've had plenty of spirits sneak up on me and surprise me, but my reaction isn't usually fear. That's not usually my first reaction. Surprise, sure, but usually once I realize what they are, I get more of a curious vibe. Like I get more of a curiosity about, ooh, what is it? Let's check it out. Of course, that's probably because of the protective spiritual entities that I have around me pretty much all the time. Anytime I tune into that frequency, they're immediately on guard. We all have spirits around us, some positive, some negative, and distinguishing between the two is the important thing. So anyone interested in the paranormal, that's where you need to begin. So that's where we'll begin, distinguishing between the two. Now, I was going to take you guys out to a really cool place in the woods where the sun is shining and it's really gorgeous. Unfortunately, I live in Oregon, and it was 80 degrees yesterday, and it's snowing today. So we'll save that one for another trip. But on the topic of distinguishing between different entities, the first one we're going to talk about, most of you already know the name of. Angels. Angel in the biblical sense translates to messenger, but there really is more to them than just your average mail carrier. I use the term angel very loosely to describe entities that either have your best interest or humanity's best interest at heart. Now, I won't go too deep into the biblical descriptions of angels in this episode. I'll save that for another day. Because there's so many different kinds of angels that narrowing them down to one word kind of feels disrespectful. See, humanity's been kept in the dark about who really pulls the strings. Probably for our own good, if we're being honest. The one problem that humans have with pretty much all angelic beings is that they're so brilliant to look at, they're so overpowered and absolutely out of our league, that when we do encounter them, they have to take a powered down form. They have to take the form of something we can understand so that they don't, burn our eyeballs out of our skulls or drive us absolutely mad with what they look like. And it's just because they exist on a level of existence that we don't really understand. In this instance, I have a lot of experience. There are 3 kinds of angels that I keep in my company on a regular basis, who act as my guardians, guides, and cosmics.
These are my minions. I don't know their names. I don't want to know their names.
The most commonly known angels that most people associate with the term guardian angel are their deceased loved ones who kind of watch over them from the other side. You see, once a person's consciousness crosses over, assuming it doesn't come back, any ties to their living relatives that they have that are strong enough to hold on, they basically take the form of a psychic bond. The guardian angel then uses this to protect you, watch over you, and sometimes even send you messages, aka the term angel. Every living thing has energy, and humans, we usually share that energy with ourselves, each other, and sometimes animals. This energy, at least the way that I see it, manifests in these colored strings, and the stronger a bond is, the thicker the string is, because the stronger it is, the bigger it's going to be. I'll go over in another video the different colored strings and what they mean and basically how they work. It's very complicated. I myself currently have 2 family members whose strings are strong enough that they can still send me messages and they still watch over me. It's very comforting to know that once your loved ones pass away, that they can still see you from the other side, even if you can't always see them. The second kind of angels that hang around me are 4 individuals whose names I will not name, specifically to protect them and myself, and they actually were manifested from me. Let me explain, because that's where it gets complicated. We all have our own personal demons. In fact, that's what the next topic is going to be about. But in my case, with the level of awareness that I have and the abilities I've been given, more than likely by the grace of God, I learned at a young age to call those demons out, address them directly, and basically turn them into my soldiers. There's a kind of demon who I will talk about later that cannot exist without you. It's a minor demon, and I won't go into it probably too much in this video, but they only exist as long as you exist. They only talk to you. They don't usually hurt anyone else. I used to call them the voices in my head. You all know what I'm talking about. The voices that tell you you're not good enough. The ones who try and tell you there's something wrong with you, or that you're dumb, or that you're too this or you're too that. Which, by the way, you're not. You're beautiful, so please don't believe that. But in my case, I learned to basically call them out on their bull and make them work for me.
Beat that boy with a bat.
It was a matter of, okay, you're going to stay here. You work for me now. I call it putting your demons on a leash. Any of you who have read my 4th book know exactly who I'm talking about. And although I don't actually tell you their real names in that book, I do tell you what demons they're associated with. And that's the first step. Figuring out what your demons are. These 4 consciousness who have their own consciousness but came from my mind, who can act independently of me, but only to protect me. They serve their purpose, and they help me with mine. They protect me, and they help me spread good vibes to you and the rest of the world. Now, if you haven't clicked away already at the mention of the word demon, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your open-mindedness. Because the problem that most people have is they're actually too scared to address their own demons. There's the weird situation in our society where it's like, oh, just cover it up, pretend it's not there, pretend you're okay. Don't pretend you're okay. Ask for help. If you need help, ask for help. Like, everybody's human. Everybody has this problem. Different problems, different levels. Ask for help. You don't have to do this by yourself. Because here's the problem. If you cannot admit to yourself and recognize the flaws that you have, if you cannot address your own demons, get them on a leash, and keep control of them, what happens is that leaves you open to the rest of the world. And we all know there's some pretty dark stuff out there in this world. And all of those big bad demons that can come in and, do terrible things like possess you and hurt people, those are the ones you have to really protect yourself from. And if you can't even get your own demons handled, there's no way you stand a chance against them. And your angels, they can only do so much to protect you. I mean, they can kind of steer you in the right direction, but you ultimately have free will. So it's ultimately up to you to defend yourself, protect yourself, and make the right choices. The third type of angel that I keep in my company are way beyond my understanding. They're something so incredibly incredible, is the only way I can think to describe them, that I don't even really understand them entirely. But I can tell you there's 3 of them, each with their own personality and consciousness, separate from mine, of course. And I refer to them as cosmics, because whether I was here or not, they would still exist. Once again, I'm going to keep their names to myself, just for their protection and my own. But for this example, we're going to refer to them as number 1, number 2, and number 3. Don't worry, they know which one they are. Now, you're going to hear me refer to them as he's, because they are cosmic beings. They don't have chromosomes like us to decide what their gender is.
Mama, they say I'm a terrorist.
They can kind of be whatever they want. They can be very fluid, they can be masculine, they can be feminine, they can be an animal. They can change forms very easily and very swiftly, to a degree where one minute they're one thing and another minute they're another, and I almost don't even know the difference because I recognize their energy, not what they look like. They've never actually been living humans, so they can kind of do whatever they want to in terms of how they show themselves. Number 3, he showed up the most recently. He found me wandering through the woods one day, as I like to do. Basically realized that, oh, there's others around. Oh, she can see us. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll hang out. And he was nice, and he had my best interest, and so he helped me out, and he gets to hang. He takes the form of a young Native American-looking man, with a very gentle, kind disposition, and he's a very sweet, soft-spoken cosmic. Number 2 came to me one night in a lucid dream. He takes the form of an American soldier. He is very blonde, very pale, and has very green eyes. He's a very talkative, very extroverted cosmic, but he is very well behaved, so he stays in line. He reminds me of the way that you would like think of a biblical angel, like the glowing light and the "Be not afraid, my child." He very much gives off that vibe. Number 1 is my main guardian, and he has actually been with me since I was a baby. I don't know where he came from, but he's always been there. Before I was born, my mother was told that she couldn't have kids. So when I was born, she called me her miracle baby. And even though I was born very prematurely, thank you, doctors, they saved me. And I was allowed to be here to talk to you today and share these very interesting experiences with you. I tell you this because my mom has always said, basically since I was born, that I had this glow around me, that I had this like golden light that just radiated good vibes and positive energy. And as much as I'd like to take credit for that, I think it's like only 5% me. Like, I'm pretty sure the rest is number 1. He is as brilliant as any cosmic I have ever seen. And he has this energy that you can feel. Like, people meet me and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you have such good vibes. You're so bubbly." And that's true. But I really accredit the good vibes to him. Like, I think I'm like that because I grew up with him around. My mom's told me stories about me talking to my angel in my room and, oh, I had this friend and this is what his name is. And he, and a lot of kids do that. A lot of kids do that. But that doesn't mean it's all imaginary. In fact, when you're young, we all can do the things that I can do now. The difference is it didn't get taught out of me. It didn't get pushed down and suppressed. My mom realized it wasn't my imagination because things would happen that she couldn't explain. Like, I would know things that I could not possibly know. I would say things that you would not expect a toddler to say. I could describe situations I'd never physically been in. Like, stuff like that. Stuff that makes you go, okay, there's something else going on here. And how did I know all of this? Well, thanks to number 1. He says I've been given these gifts because I'm supposed to use them to help make people happy. And honestly, if that's my purpose, I'm totally fine with that. Making people laugh is my favorite thing in the world. Number 1 has gone through way more visual changes than the others, probably because he's been around so much longer. When I was younger, he kind of manifested himself as like a little boy who is about 2 years older than me. I joke with him that, oh yeah, you did that because you wanted to keep the upper hand in any arguments we had, but we didn't argue. So, and then as I got older, his physical form changed and it looked like he appeared to get older. I don't know what the purpose of that is, but my best guess is just that's how my brain comprehended him. Like, that's how my brain understood him, and it made the most sense for him to grow when I grew. I guess that's how that works. These days, he looks like a guy pretty much like in his late 20s, like I'm in my late 20s. Oh my god, I'm in my late 20s. Very pale skin, jet black hair, blue eyes that literally glow in the dark. And he presents himself as very like aloof and nonchalant, which is really funny. But like, careful, because his temper is, I am the righteous hand of God. Woof. On all my adventures, whenever I'd run into something a little dark or negative or anything that didn't have my best interest, he would basically put himself between me and the negativity. And the second he did, any conscious entities would go running. Like, I don't know what exactly kind of cosmic he is, but he's obviously in charge. Like, he's very powerful and nothing ever messes with him. Like, he steps in the room and everything that's not good, everything that's negative, heads for the hills very quickly. I think he might just be here to protect me. God had to protect me somehow. Like, he gave me these abilities. He wasn't just going to set me loose on my own. He's very good at his job. which, as far as I can tell, is to protect me and keep me on my purpose. Now, I'm talking with my microphone. Now, I can feel some of you thinking, but Meli, what if these things are negative? What if these things are like negative spirits who are latched onto you? Well, I've gotten very good at telling the difference between positive and negative entities. There's a very easy answer to that, and we're going to talk about that next. But the quick answer is, if they were negative spirits, if they were demons or anything that was negative that was attached to me, they would convince me to do self-destructive things. They would, get me to do things that would benefit them and probably be worse on me, because that's how demons keep a hold of you. But actually with them, it's the exact opposite. Like they don't do that. It's fascinating, really. If they were demons, they would leech off of my energy. They would siphon it off for their own purposes, and they don't. They actually give me their energy. I don't need coffee. I don't need any of that because I have so much energy. There's no reason. Coffee just makes me wired and jittery. It doesn't do anything.
I'm not saying we should ban caffeine. I'm saying that there's things stronger out there that don't give you the jitters.
I have so much energy. They tell me not to drink. They tell me not to smoke. They tell me not to use green. I don't do drugs. I don't have to do any of that because I have so much energy from them that there's no point. They wouldn't do anything for me anyways. It's not that I don't do that stuff because I haven't wanted to. Like, I'm a human being, but it just doesn't appeal to me because I can do all of this other stuff. They give me so much encouragement and so much good, healthy energy that I have no incentive to do any of those other things. I get comments in my videos sometimes where people are like, I want whatever drugs you're on. And I really, I laugh out loud and I show my friends and I'm like, guys, this is funny. And they're like, oh yeah, Meli, because you're just high on life. And it's true. I am. That being said, if they were demons, they'd probably act more like this. There are just as many demonic beings as there are angelic ones, but they all have one thing in common. They mainly feed off of three things: hatred, fear, and chaos. Now, I don't mean that they literally eat hate comments, although that would clear up my comment section. But what they do is they basically absorb the energy put off by those negative emotions and use it in order to survive. The ones who feed off fear usually target us at a younger age because they're the ones who, easiest for them to get their claws in us. The ones who feed on fear are entirely powerless against someone who is unafraid. Of course, we're all afraid of something, usually regarding to our immediate survival instincts, but with the exception of immediate danger, there's nothing to be afraid of. If you can gain control over your anxiety and your adrenaline reactions, there are few things in this world that can cross you. The ones that feed on hate usually target us later in life. These are the things that make people racist, sexist, any variety of those things. And I'm not saying this excuses anyone from the hateful behaviors that can come from those deeper beliefs. But what I am saying is you can't fight hate with hate. You can only fight it with love and compassion and understanding. Every human being on this planet has the capacity for good and evil. We ate the apple.
What's your name?
So this is our curse. But truly understanding the fundamentals of what good and evil are is really the only way to outwardly battle those forces that might be controlling you and manipulating you without you even knowing it. Those forces, by the way, which if not taken care of, can legitimately result in demonic possession. There are 5 levels of demonic possession as far as I'm concerned. The first 3, usually you can work out yourself. Usually, with enough willpower, determination, you can fight your way out of those. But 4 and 5, those levels, the 4th and 5th levels of possession require an outside force to be dealt with. I'm talking an exorcist level priest or a psychic willing to go head to head with these things, because you don't have any control over yourself at that point. They're in control of you. And I have never seen someone come back from that level of possession, speaking as someone who would know. This is what happens when people do unspeakable things. This is what causes people to do unspeakable things. Now, often mental illness is also a contributing factor, so you do have to be aware of that. Because if you have mental illness and you don't have control over yourself already, well, it's very easy for these things to prey on you and get you to do things that you might otherwise not do if you were in control. I've got a lot of experience with that particular situation, not for me, but for someone very close to me that exact thing happened to. And number one had to step in and take care of it. But once a demon has its claws in you to the 4th or 5th degree, there's very few things that are going to make it let go. But one of those things is death. They cannot feed on you in death. Jesus made sure of that. But what they can do is use your death and the pain that is caused from it to transfer to other people around you who are going to miss you. This is why the act of ending your own life is one of the most horrible things you can do. Because if you do it, 3 things are going to happen. Number 1, your traumatized energy and consciousness are going to be stuck in a trauma loop for months, years, or even centuries until your energy dissipates. Number 2, the demon that's haunting you will now be haunting all the other people around you, who it can latch onto and feed off of their energy now that you're gone. Number 3, your soul will be recycled, but your consciousness may not follow it. I'm no expert on what happens to us when we die. Well, in theory. But what I can tell you is that energy cannot be created or destroyed. That is a scientific law we have established. So it's got to go somewhere. Your soul is made entirely out of energy and is eternal. We do not die, so be very careful with your consciousness and your eternal soul, my angels. They are the most valuable things that you have. Finally, before we move on to lost souls, there's one more energy we need to talk about that demons feed on. Chaos energy. Chaos energy is a primordial energy. It is everywhere in everything, in every living being, in plants, animals, humans, and anything with a pulse. Now, in terms of energy, calling it chaos energy isn't really accurate. That's just what number 1 calls it. So that's what I refer to it as. But what it really is it's more like nature energy. So things from nature, things that are alive. Basically, it is the feminine, chaotic energy that opposes the organized, masculine energy of the universe. Anything living, it's living because it feeds off of chaos energy, including human beings. Now, we get it through food. Whether you're eating a salad or a burger or bow tie pasta, you're getting that energy from somewhere. And that energy is what keeps your physical body alive. But your soul is what keeps your consciousness alive. And you don't have to replenish the energy in your soul, which is why it's so important for a human being to have one. But demons, they don't have a soul. They don't have that energy that just keeps us eternally thriving. But they need energy. And they need it in much larger quantities than we do. They are never satisfied. Their hunger is endless, and they never get enough because it's so hard for them to get it in the first place. Thus, they manipulate humanity and do things to us that cause us to put out energy, usually in the form of emotions, because we are such extraordinary beings that the energy we put off is enough to keep them going. Honestly, there's better sources that they could go off of, but it's kind of like we're just like an easy meal. We're emotional and easily frightened, and we often forget our predatory instincts in favor of our more prey-like instincts in order to survive. We're easy to scare and easy to anger, and therefore it takes way less energy for them to get energy out of us. Human souls contain a power and creator energy to manifest things into our reality. I do it all the time. You focus in, I'll make a whole video about it if you want. But you focus in and you can manifest things into your reality by thinking about it. Like, human beings are incredible. We basically have the equivalent of like a psychic supernova inside of us. And if you were a creature who survived off of energy and never had enough, you can imagine why they would want a human soul. Because in the astral realm, payment is not made with debt or credit. It's made with soul energy, chaos energy, and consciousness. This is why you never, ever, ever summon or make a deal with a demon. Because they're going to try and steal your soul. They like making deals, and humans are very gullible. They want that soul. It can sustain them for an eternity. So if you do make a deal with a demon, you're basically trading your eternal consciousness for what? Money? Temporary pleasure? It's a very poor bargain on your end, is what I'm saying. You basically get nothing, and they get your everything. But enough about the parasites that hide in the shadows. After all, they are nothing compared to the God-given power inside the human soul. But what happens when a soul gets stuck? Well, it hasn't happened to me personally, but I've met a few of them in my day, so I can tell you what happened to them. I'm sure you understand by now that human souls are a pretty big deal. They're highly concentrated, supernova-sized power packs shoved down inside of a human body that's been intelligently designed to contain them. Human beings are like ticking time bombs that have the potential to go off at any moment, but don't because of the form we've been given to hold us. The manipulation of the DNA in our physical matter is the only thing that keeps us stable. These bodies, mind you, which did not evolve from apes, but more so were sculpted from them. According to my sources, number 1, 2, and 3, basically, there was some trial and error that went on when they were trying to figure out how to keep a human soul safe. Creating the shell that contains the supernova soul that each of us has is something that only a cosmic of epic proportion could manage. Humans are a fascinating combination of all of the best animals on this planet. But that didn't happen by accident. All of the greatest scientific minds of our ancestors go all the way back to Da Vinci and farther. They all had two things in common. One, they were brilliant. And two, they were both scientific and spiritual. You cannot separate scientific and spiritual, because if you do, you're going to hit a wall with both. Somewhere along the way, science became the study of the physical things we can see, and spirituality has become the study of the things we can't physically see. Without grasping both, without having a deep understanding of both, no human being will ever go to the stars. Like, no human being will ever be able to get past, say, Mars. Because human bodies were not made for the stars. Our souls were, because that's where they come from.
Nothing ever stays dead.
But our physical bodies are basically made for gravity on this planet. They were made for life on this planet. Our shells were basically made to hold our consciousness in the physical 3D realm. But our souls, on the other hand, they exist in the astral. Astral beings, cosmic consciousness, they don't exist in the 3D realm alone. Not like our physical bodies do. They exist way beyond that. I'm talking 4th, 5th, 20th, dimensions we can't even comprehend because our brains can't go that far. Because while our brains make everything happen properly in our bodies, our consciousness is deeper than that, as I'm sure you've established with me by now. One more reason why humanity's never going to have proof of anything outside of the 3D physical realm. Because having proof of that would mean that we were no longer 3D physical creatures. It would absolutely disrupt the flow of society. Like, it would break down everything we know to be true. Humans are meant to be humans. We're meant to live in our shells. Our souls, however, different story. Once our shells die, that's when we get to go experience the cosmos. That's when we get to go on adventures out to who knows where in no man's land, out beyond the planets. There's something out there beyond the planets, beyond the physical. Once you die, that's when you get to go do that. Well, unless you get stuck. A lost soul, by this regards, is basically, I'm defining it as someone's consciousness who has done something in their physical life to latch them so strongly to Earth that their consciousness and their soul are basically ripped in two. The soul goes back to God and the astral and the energy. The consciousness is stuck in the physical plane. If you don't have a body and you're stuck in the physical plane, you're basically a ghost.
And hold the crust.
Hold the crust? Hey, Jimmy,
Give me a cheese with nut. Nothing.
People who this happens to usually die in very brutal, traumatic ways, often by offing themselves or murder or any number of other super traumatic things where the consciousness doesn't exactly realize that it's dead. This is where the classic example of a ghost with unfinished business comes from, because it's true. They do have unfinished business. They don't realize they're dead and they try to go about their lives, but they can't. So they're stuck in this loop trying to do something in hopes that it will essentially set them free. Now, it might sound like it would be a common thing, but there's billions of humans on the planet. And those are just the ones alive today. It's not that common, at least comparatively. Most humans either reincarnate and try and give it another try, or they just go straight back to the God consciousness that we're all a piece off of. We're the universal consciousness, basically taking human form to experience ourselves. And we don't remember the before time because our brains don't have the capacity to remember the before time. Human bodies on average don't move outside of time and space, which the other dimensions do. Our souls do. Everything you've ever done is already done. It's already happened, but it also hasn't happened yet. That's how time works in those dimensions, at least according to number one. Because our brains don't move into that fourth dimensional space without a fourth dimensional force acting upon it, that fourth dimensional force, by the way, can be your own soul. Usually it's not. Usually it's another consciousness who's taking you there for a specific reason. But this is how time travel is possible. And once again, that's a story for another video. Back to lost souls. Over time, lost souls, their consciousness kind of dissipates. It weakens and it kind of slowly mixes back into the everything else. Without food or a source of energy, the consciousness can only survive so long without the soul that's made literally to keep it going. The consciousness might stay to try and finish business, but the soul's gone. It's gone back to the God consciousness. It's either, like I said, reincarnated or off exploring some other amazing adventure. But the consciousness, if they don't go with the soul, the energy weakens over time. Now, how much of that energy is there kind of depends on the trauma of their death. So, once again, please don't do anything to make yourself not exist anymore, because we love you and I love you, and please don't do that. You have a purpose. You're probably a good person at your core. There's a reason you're here. Souls are the currency of eternity, and everyone starts off with one. What you do with that soul depends on your own free will. Now, I think I've pretty much covered all the basics in terms of consciousness as far as paranormal experiences are concerned. In conclusion, be nice to your angels. They love you very much. Don't make deals with demons. They're cheating you out of eternity. And if you're thinking about ending yourself, please don't. You're going to get stuck in your own suffering and then repeat the pain on a loop until you fizzle out, and nobody wants that. I want to bring you on my adventures. I've been told that I have a purpose to share my abilities and take you a bunch of cool places to show you a bunch of cool things. So, please, join me on my next adventure. It's going to be really cool, and I'm going to have some really cool stuff to show you because I'm actually going somewhere to take footage. Going to come back. I won't spoil it, but it's going to be really cool. If you would like to help support my channel, please subscribe, and I'm going to run my little digital Cash App tip jar probably somewhere on the lower half of the screen. Until next time, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. God bless. Nadok in the Hamo. See you in the stars.